Great. So I'm Nora Trenicust. I'm the Regional Director for Text Help, which means that I am up and down the West Coast most of the time, but I'm actually really close by. So I'm coming to you from my home office in San Leandro. And I'm guessing that you guys are looking out the window and seeing hazy, smoky yuck like I am. So that'll be, guess something we'll be doing today. But we're really happy to be here with you. Heather and the team has set up a special session just for secondary. We had something for elementary. We also had something specific to ELD. So we'll try and share some strategies with you today that are really going to be super helpful in your content area. But this will be kind of we'll talk a little bit about why we would want to use the software and how we think it's going to help for your students. And then I'll spend a little bit of time with you just making sure everybody has the software. We'll practice a little bit with just a couple of icons on the toolbar. And then Corey's going to take it back to some strategies that you should be able to use for instruction. So thanks,
awesome.
Corey.
All right. So we just want to start way back at the very beginning. Our CEO, Martin Mackay, who founded the company, his father ended up having a severe stroke, and he really struggled with accessing tools and accessing digital technology. And there really wasn't any assistive technology back 25 years ago. And so Martin really had to create something for his father to be able to communicate. And so 25 years later, that's what we're still doing. And our goal is, and our mission is to create technologies that can help people read, write, and research with confidence. And so taking our vision even deeper, we believe that everyone has the right to understand and to be understood. And just going back to our mission, it really is that we want to help unlock everyone's full potential through technology. And with that, I think definitely coming out of COVID or still being in COVID, we now more than ever, we understand that there's a lot of things that we see on the outside, not only from our students, but with us in general. There are, abilities and disabilities we see on the outside, but there's so much that we hold on the inside that can be abilities and disabilities as well that we don't necessarily share or that we don't necessarily see. For instance, I have a master's degree in education, but what people don't know and what I hold inside is my freshman year of high school, a teacher told me that I wasn't good enough in math and I had to go down to business math. And I carried that. What that meant was I wasn't college material and I was horrible at math. And that fear stuck with me until I just couldn't take it any longer. And I didn't start my college career really substantially until I was 26. And so that fear of math and that fear of not being successful has carried on. And so, but today this outside appearance is different, but I still hold a lot of that inside me. So, some of those things that we think about on the outside, what we see, we do have other things on the inside. My daughter, for instance, is an AP student. She's highly intelligent and, she gets called out in class for being so, but what others don't understand is when she gets called out in class, her anxiety, it multiplies because then that just means she has to be even more successful. She is in AP classes and reads novels, but has to also listen to novels. So her anxiety is not as high. And so, we need to think about those inner things that not only we carry, but our students carry when we're thinking about the classroom. Anxiety, trauma from, we have a lot of trauma coming out of COVID with our students, those types of things. And so let's kind of delve deeper into our own thoughts. And so that's going to be our icebreaker today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you can be so open, we would appreciate it. Who are you? What do people see about you? And what are some things maybe that you hold inside that we don't necessarily see that you might want to share with us? You can definitely use your name, and you don't have to. You can definitely be anonymous as well. But we would love, love, love to hear some of those thoughts. Oh, thank you. Gosh, I love that you're already getting started. Oops.
Jeff, you're after my own heart. It's the only class I ever struggled with. And I'll be extra psyched if you tell me you're a math teacher now.
I was a science teacher, but yeah.
I still laugh. I don't really remember my algebra teacher's face, just the back of his head. That tells you a little bit about his teaching style, huh?
Oh my goodness. Breaks my heart. Oh, Jeff, me too. It's true.
All right, we'll do our best not to stress out anybody.
I like that one. Allergic to math. I feel like it too. I saw Nora do a training yesterday and I had to tell her I was like getting anxiety from her training on math. Wonderful. Why don't we take another, maybe about 3 minutes? I really appreciate everyone being so open and honest. Hmm. All right. If anyone else has anything they want to share, please take this opportunity to write it down. We have about a minute left. All right. Hmm. Hmm. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate how open and willing you are and were to participate in this icebreaker. I appreciate it. Going back to the slides, and I do want to let you know, a lot of the strategies are the same, the content is different. So we are going to be, depending on how long it takes us to work through getting everything downloaded and helping everyone get to where we need to be to do the strategies. It is the expert groups and the close reading, but the content is different. So, you know, depending, you're still going to learn, and it just, every time you learn, you see it, you're going to solidify it deeper. So you're not going to waste your time by being in here. I think that's the biggest. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. So moving on. I take our toolbar and I see it in the lens of kind of all students, and how I access it is through ELL strategies, universal design for learning strategies. And I kind of fell into universal design for learning strategies through a project-based learning lens. And really that is access for all. So all students, not necessarily coming in from a special education departmental kind of category. So our next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the ELL and SEDI strategies and lenses I take from the toolbar, and what kind of where we're headed towards these strategies. Kind of emphasis on academic language and active learning, doing, showing, and showing evidence of learning, collaborative problem solving, cooperative and other groupings, making sure that we're demonstrating and modeling what we're doing. And so modeling, not only us, but, you know, students need to demonstrate what they know. Graphic organizers, integrating listening, speaking, reading, and writing across the curriculum. So this toolbar can go from science, social studies, reading, and math, making sure that, you know, our students are understanding math vocabulary, We can pull out vocabulary and math and create math journals and vocabulary. I think that's super important for students. And higher order thinking skills. All of these SADI strategies and ELL strategies can be utilized within the Read and Write toolbar. And then taking the next lens that I definitely utilize is the universal design for learning, which we are connected to at our core, is the 3 areas of the brain: the why, the what, and the how. And really that's engagement, representation, and action and expression. And if we're looking at engagement, we're thinking options and support for our students. How are we motivating them? And how are we giving them an enthusiasm for learning? How are they accessing that? We really want to motivate our students to learn. If we're going toward representation, how are we presenting information in different, or how are they presenting information in different ways? What opportunities are we giving them to do that? We really want to support their access and understanding of the information. And then action and expression. How are they creating? How are they learning? And how are they sharing their information? We cannot give them one design choice and say this is the right choice for all of our students. And so when we think about that, what are our barriers that are in our classroom that we may not be thinking about? And when we talk about barriers, we're going to go back to that, what we see on the outside or what may already be established, maybe by an IAP or a 504, but what about, or a designated ELD or ELL student. But what about those students who we don't know if they have anxiety or any of those other internal things that we can't see? And so some of these barriers we can see: low vision. If they have a paperback book, if our one design choice is a paperback book, then one of the barriers will be that you can't enlarge that text. So if we have to bring that text to a digitized format, then we can use the toolbar to access content in a different way. If our students decode text slowly, one of the design choices might be, if you're giving them 15 minutes to complete a test or a task, then that time frame is not going to be acceptable for a student who decodes slowly. So we need to think about these potential barriers as we're working with our students in class, and not giving them one choice of design or one method that works for maybe only a couple percent or 10% of our students. So we really need to think about how we're choosing to give our students access to information in the classroom. And so with that, what I really want to say, I think when we're thinking about students in general, is whether we are thinking from a special education lens or an ELL lens, really our practices are just best practices. And so I think moving forward, taking those silos out and thinking, how are we helping all students access information in the best way for them? And with that, going from a kind of a broad way of how we think about our tools, we're now going to go deeper into the toolbar itself. And with this, I'm going to kick it over to Nora to get deeper into the toolbar and our tools.
Thank you, Corey. So I'm going to show my screen and we're going back to the slides. And everybody who's following along the slides, we are going to wind up on slide number 9. So I'm going to share my screen and you should see that shortly. Are you seeing everything okay, Corey?
Yes. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So I do not want this to be super overwhelming for people, but we wanted you to kind of have a feel for all of what is there. We're not going to do everything today. We're going to make sure that people get a chance to load the tools if you haven't done it already. And then we're going to give you the opportunity to explore a couple of the icons on the toolbar with us. And so we'll give you some like general background in the tool and just touching the surface, getting started. And then Corey is going to work with you on some actual strategies, and you'll get more exposure to the tools through that. But we wanted to just zoom out for a minute and give everybody a chance to get the tools. So this picture of the Read and Write toolbar is a little overwhelming. There's a lot going on, right? I think it's best to focus on one or two things that you want to use the toolbar for at first, for yourself and for your students. And we're going to help you kind of focus on some of that right now, but also give you exposure to other ones. So I don't want you to feel like you need to know how to do everything on this toolbar. But the good news is this is a toolbar. There's no content here at all. This is a toolbar that layers into anything that you're doing and offers extra support, not just for reading and writing, but for expression, for synthesizing information, for getting to those higher order thinking and study skills. So just know that once you know how to press the play button here in a Google slide, then you know how to press the play button in a Google Doc or a PDF or a website that you want to have read out loud. So what you learn will transfer into other areas. So I'm moving on to slide 10. Any of you that didn't get a chance to download the Read and Write tools from the links that we sent previously, I wanted to give you a heads up that we've been doing some other trainings. I know some of you are with us in other trainings this week. It turns out that there's a little setting that your IT team needs to take care of before all of you will be able to successfully collect highlights. So you may see me demonstrate something that you won't be able to do maybe until next week when your IT team accepts something on the other end. So don't despair if you're not able to do that right away. We're going to record this. You can come back and follow along. But there are 3 parts of Read and Write that you need to have. They're all included in the program. The first one, and probably the most important one, is the Read and Write for Google Chrome extension. I know there was somebody that mentioned they were on a Chromebook. Good news, since this is an extension, it actually lives in the Chrome browser, which means it's exactly the same on a Mac PC or a Chromebook. There's no teacher's tool versus student's tool. Everybody has the same toolbar, and then they can customize it to their needs and use the parts of it that are appropriate for them. So I want to make sure everybody has a chance to download this. If you don't have it already, you should have a purple puzzle piece up here in your extensions list. And that's the Read and Write for Google Chrome extension. You can go on the link that we provided here to download it if you don't have it. And if you downloaded it and you're not seeing it, there's a good chance, so you can see my little purple puzzle piece, there's a good chance if you downloaded it and you're not seeing it, that gray puzzle piece there is from Google. And that's how you can see all of the many extensions. You can see I've got a lot of extensions. This is where you can see the extensions that you have. So you can see Read and Write for Google Chrome here and how I've pinned it. If I unpin it, it's going to go away. And if I pin it, it's going to come back. So if you download it and you say, oh gosh, I can't see it, go to that little gray puzzle piece and see if you can pin that. So you should have this Read and Write for Google Chrome icon. That's the one that works on Google Docs, on Google Slides. You can see here in my Google Slides. This is what you'll use on websites in the Chrome browser, which means it's going to be able to read things out loud inside of Google Classroom. It's going to be able to work on web pages. It's going to be able to work on your online textbooks. So that's the main one that you're going to be using. The second one that we want to make sure that you have is called Orbit Doc. And you should have those 2 little blue half circles up there. And that Orbit Doc is for not just reading, but annotating PDF files. So I want to make sure that you guys have that Orbit Doc. And then the third one is the screenshot reader. And that looks like this little purple cartoon character guy. I am guessing pretty much everybody here is using Google Classroom, except maybe for some of the psychologists. So if you are planning on sharing documents with your students through Google Classroom, you'll want to go to your Orbit Doc, right click on that and go to your options. And you'll see here under the options, I have a choice to open web PDFs directly, which you can choose to do or not do, won't make any difference. But you're going to want to make sure that both you and your students have marked Open Classroom PDFs directly. That's how you're going to be able to mark up PDFs and share them back and forth through Google Classroom. If you check that and you don't use Google Classroom, not going to make any difference. So I think best policy, just check it in case you ever wind up sharing anything in Classroom. It's probably the best way to go. So I
Can you
want to
walk
make
through
sure
that one
that
more
everybody
time,
has
please?
the tools there. Yes, question?
Can you walk through that one more time, please, with the Orbit doc and what we need to do on Classroom?
Absolutely. So here we are with slide number 10. You have a link to the Chrome Web Store to download Read&Write. So that's your Read&Write extension. And
I dropped it in the chat as well.
awesome. And then Orbit Doc, this link will take you to the Chrome Web Store to open up Orbit Doc. And you see I already have it, so it's going to ask me to remove it, but you guys should just be able to share it. And then the last link there is for Screenshot Reader, which we will also give you an opportunity to download here. So
Just dropped it again.
okay. And then just refreshing everybody's memory, these are Chrome extensions. So if you go to the Chrome Web Store and you download that, you do need to be using the Chrome browser. You do need to be logged into the Chrome browser. So if you have a little bald head here, you can push all the buttons you want, but it's never going to find you, right? So make sure that you are logged in here to the Chrome browser to get access to those extensions. If you are in your Google Drive, you should also be logged in. So you want to make sure that those two figures match. Can't have a bald head and you at work. You also can't have Nora is cool at Gmail versus Nora text help, right? They've got to be the same person for everything to kind of link up. And you'll see in a moment when we first start using this, it's going to ask you for some permissions, and that's okay. We have a privacy document on file with Hayward. We never have access to student information, so everything's very private. And so you will see occasionally some permissions pop up, and you want to make sure that you accept those, and you want to make sure that your students accept those. So they've checked everything out. So make sure that you did that. So those were the links to download Read&Write for Google Chrome and Orbit Doc. And then I'll take one more step back and just, if you downloaded it and you don't see the extension showing up in your list, you can always go to that gray puzzle piece, which is part of Google, and you can make sure that you have it pinned. So you saw that I unpinned it and the little puzzle piece went away, and I pinned it and the little puzzle piece came back. And then for those of you who now have Orbit Doc, you're going to right click here on Orbit Doc. You're going to go to your options, and you're going to make sure that Open Classroom PDFs directly is one of your settings that you have checked. And that's how you and your students are going to share things back and forth in Google Classroom. So is everybody getting a chance to get that downloaded? Any questions, Corey?
No questions so far.
Awesome. Oh.
Well, I guess Marlene said, what am I marking in Classroom? And you're not really marking anything in Classroom right now. Is that correct? I mean, we don't have the class, we don't have a link to Classroom.
Yeah, she went over it. It was in the options up in the top toolbar by the puzzle piece.
Okay, good.
That's the
Awesome.
step I missed. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to drop another little link directly into this slide so that hopefully you guys will be able to find it. So I just want to drop a little link into that slide so that you guys will be able to follow along with me. And I will also drop that into the chat window. So let me drop it into the chat window first, and then I'll drop it into the slide so people can follow along with that. So this practice reading aloud highlighter strategies template, I'm going to drop that into the chat window here so that you guys have it. This will be our practice doc. Let's see. Not in the waiting room. We want everyone. So make a copy of that practice doc, please. Okay. And then I'm going to also drop this link into that slide in our presentation so that you guys have it. So
Awesome.
you
I was
want
just gonna
to,
do that.
this link right here in slide number, what slide are we on? We are slide 11, or you can click the link in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and click on that link. And what you're going to see is you're going to see a template. Can you see how it's like all black around the edges? So this is just in preview mode. You're viewing what's in somebody else's Google Drive. But when you click use template, it's going to make a copy for you in your own Google Drive. So Corey, if you want to reshare that link in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and click on the link, and you're going to see it's going to make a copy, and it's going to open this document in my Google Drive. So now I have my own copy of this. That is all set so that you can also make your own copy. And you'll notice when my copy loads, I already have the Read and Write for Google Chrome toolbar inside my Google Doc view, right? If you have not used this tool before, you're going to probably have nothing, or you might have a little tab that hangs down like this. So the very first time you use the tool, you're going to have to select it, and you're going to have to accept some permissions. So when I select this tab, mine just comes right down, but yours, you're probably going to have 2, maybe even 3 pop-up boxes that ask for permissions. So again, make sure you accept all of those permissions. And when you do so, you should be able to see the Read and Write for Google Chrome toolbar appear like right inside your document, like mine. So how's everybody doing? Any questions so far?
Did you just see that if you could just go a tiny bit slower?
You betcha.
Okay.
All right.
That
So I'll
template.
just
So all
step
your
back one and kind of repeat. We have a template here, right?
Yep. So all you're going to do is go up to the right top where it says use template and click on that template.
And then use template. And you can see it's loading in my Google Drive now. And it's kind of thinking as it opens it, starting to bring in the tools. And now I have my Read and Write toolbar. But for those of you that are doing it for the first time, you may have no toolbar at all, or you may have this little hanging down tab. And when you click on the hanging down tab, it should give you some pop-up boxes that ask you for some permission. So it could be 2, could be 3, depending on your setup. And you want to make sure that you accept all of those. So again, it may open with just the little tab and you click on that, or you may not see it at all. And I'll show you up here, if you click on your little purple puzzle piece up here, your toolbar will completely disappear. So if you don't want to see it, you can just click on that button and you're fine. If you want to bring it back, then just click on the button and you can have it come back. So you can click it on and off this way as well. How are we doing? Is everybody getting kind of caught up? Need a little bit more time?
I am problem solving a couple. Okay. Heather and Karen,
Mhm.
if you guys are okay, just unmuting, and maybe we can problem solve this quicker if you just unmute. And Nora's super knowledgeable, so she might be able to help you quicker than me.
So I'm getting the practice document, but it's really small. It's in the middle of a black screen.
Yes.
And I can't see where I should make a copy of it. I don't see any
Oh, got
commands.
it. So sometimes, depending on how things are oriented, if you look at this link here, it may open up like kind of on the same screen as you. If that's the situation, you should be able to right click on it the same way as you would click on it. And you can just click copy link if that's happening, and you can go to a new tab and just drop your link in there and you'll be right back to the template.
That's not what's happening.
Oh, okay.
I've got literally the document. I think it's the document you're showing.
Yes.
It's very small. It's in the middle of the screen and there's no command.
I understand. So did you see what happened when I just did this? So if I click on it one way, I'll see that little, does that look like what's on your screen? Like a very small version of the document, correct?
No,
and I can click on it and it'll be a slightly bigger version of the document. It's really still a preview.
No.
So we need to get you out of the preview mode, right? So are you seeing something that looks like this or something that looks like this?
No, I don't see either of those things.
Okay. So can you click on the link that Corey shared in the actual chat window? That should just open up a new tab for you, no problem. Try that.
No, it's
Or-
exactly the same. It's still the document's too small to read. And there's nothing anywhere to open it up. I'm on a Mac. Does that make a difference?
Are you in the Chrome browser or are you using Safari?
No, I'm in Chrome.
You're in Chrome. Okay. You should be able to see that it may be that something's blocked. I don't know. But there's no technology beyond Google involved in this.
Oh, there's a tiny little bar at the bottom that has a plus sign, and I was able to increase the size that way.
Awesome. Okay, good.
But it's
Good,
so
good.
small I can barely see it. Now, I've increased the size, but now what do I do with it?
So when you're in that template mode, you're going to click the blue button that says use template. You have a blue button that
Don't
says use
see any
template.
blue button here.
All right. So I am not sure how you're going to get that document. I'm not sure what's going on for you Mac wise. I don't want to take up the rest of the group, but Corey, would you do me a favor and will you send her like a link? Maybe just make a copy of it and send her a link.
Yes.
That?
And yes, absolutely.
Okay. So that's what we'll do. And then the rest of you, were you able to get here? And did you accept your permissions and do you now see the toolbar? Okay. That link needs permission to access.
That was from, that wasn't from me, that was from Chris.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where Chris pulled that one from, but I'm gonna share this one, and this one, if you guys are having trouble, this one will be editor, but you guys will absolutely have to make a copy yourself. So that, I mean, that's fine.
Yep. And again, this is a little bit more complicated by the fact that we're not in your domain, because you guys could just be sharing these documents through Google Classroom and the kids would click them and be off on their merry way. It's kind of taken a long time because we're not in your domain, so we're not sharing it directly through Google Classroom for you, but makes you appreciate Google Classroom, doesn't it?
Copy, and then, so I just directly sent that to Heather. So let me send this.
Awesome.
All right, so this one I just shared with everybody. Again, this is an open doc, so you will have to just make a copy.
Okay. So until you make a copy, it won't be in your drive and you won't have the toolbar, right? It's got to be in your drive or in Google Classroom. Sorry, we can't do that for you guys. Yes, the original doc, Chris, does have the forced copy. But for whatever reason, it seems to be blocking some people. I don't know why, but yeah, that's the original link. It's definitely like a forced copy. So for anybody that's wondering about how to do that, if anybody hasn't done that before, you should be able to share any Google Doc, the very tail end where it says edit, you should be able to go template/preview. And you should get to a screen like this that says use template, right? And then you can share that link with anybody. So again, sorry, some of you guys are kind of hitting a wall on that. Is everybody getting close now?
So guys, so it won't, so you just make your own copy at the top left. You'll just file, make your own copy. That's that. It won't tell you to make one. You'll just have to make your own. And
like
then
this.
the other, and then the other thing is, if you don't have your toolbar up, you're going to go up to the right hand corner where you see Nora's toolbar, and there should be an RW puzzle piece in purple. And you click on that, and that's when your toolbar should show up. If you don't have that purple puzzle piece, go to the left to the gray puzzle piece. Pop that open, and you should see Read and Write right there. That means it wasn't pinned, so you want to pin it, and you'll see a blue pen. That means it should pop up on that toolbar. If you don't have your purple puzzle piece on that extensions, then you're gonna need to go back a couple steps and download.
And I just want to reiterate, if you guys need more time, you can always go back and watch this video again. You can also always contact our tech support directly and they can walk you through the download. We also have lots and lots of how-to videos that'll walk you through that. But we want to make sure that we get a chance to share some strategies. So we're going to kind of move on to the practice. And then again, you guys can watch the video later and follow along if you want to. And we'll make sure that we address any questions that you have. Corey and I can stay on for an extra 10 minutes. If you guys need a little bit of extra
Absolutely.
help, we can help then too. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. I know this is a lot. Ideally, the district just pushes it out to teachers, but I believe this has been pushed out to your students. So what all of us are doing here today with downloading it, do not worry. You do not have to do this with your students. This is just something that we're doing with you as teachers. And we can talk to the district if you'd rather have things pushed out, but you don't have to do this with your students. Your students will just already have it. So, so here we are in this document and you can see the Read and Write toolbar. It's pretty big. We're just going to focus on a couple of things today. And one of the things that's very high utility for students and teachers really is to have the text read out loud. I know we've got psychologists in here, we've got RSPs in here, we've got people that are really worried about struggling students. When you're having a hard time at school, whether it's you're having a hard time paying attention because of other stuff that's going on in your life, or maybe you're not reading at grade level, you're just not a strong reader, the read aloud is huge. So I'm going to click somewhere here in the documents. I'm going to click right here and I'm going to press the play button and it's going to read this out loud for me.
The moon is a big rock and does not have any people, plants, or animals living on it. The moon is
So I'm going to pause this and I wanted you to see that the whole sentence is lit up in yellow, but when it was saying the word very, that word was lit up in blue.
Plants or animals living on
So
it.
we know that students are tracking across there and they're getting that coordinated audio visual support, right? So they're seeing and hearing the words as they go across the page. There's quite a bit of science behind that. So there's a couple of decades of research showing that when students have that coordinated audio visual support, students generally read and comprehend 2 levels higher than their average reading level. So since you guys are secondary teachers and you're working in the content area, that's going to go a long way towards helping your students. I have a question. If you want to unmute, that's fine.
Okay, my question is, have you had any experience with students walking home listening to lectures or books on tape for that night's homework? Because our kids live on their phone.
Yes. So we can share another way to do that. So I will show you that in a moment. Let's get through the basic speech stuff, and then I'll show you how your kids can access this stuff offline when they're not even using this tool. Good question. Awesome. Okay, and yes, we do read out loud in Spanish. I took note that we have some world language teachers, and I'm going to show you guys some awesome strategies for world language also. So I wanted to point out that I hit the pause button. Many of your students may not be super familiar with the pause button. I'm old. I know what a cassette tape is. I know why you want to hit the pause button versus rewind and forward, right? But I think a lot of your students probably stream their media and they may just close the tab, or they may go back, after it's been playing and just slide the slider back. So not everybody knows what the pause is for. And part of the reason why I bring that up is you may have an online textbook and the publishers use human readers, which is awesome, but they don't pay the human readers to read a sentence at a time. They pay the human readers to read the whole page. So when you're reading your chemistry textbook and there's a word you want to look up halfway in the middle of the page, there's no pause button. You got to stop it, look up the word, and then sadly, you have to start reading again at the beginning of the page. So I do like to take a minute to show students how to use the pause button. Over here, you have these kind of 3 meatballs, these 3 horizontal dots. Those are your options, and you have lots of options. I'm not going to dig too deep, but I want to show you a couple of things that I think will be helpful as far as speech. And then for those of you that are world language teachers, this is going to be your zone. So I went to my 3 dots. I went to the options gear. I have all of these different voices that I can choose from, and I can change the speed of my voice, right? Faster and slower. The default is continuous reading, which I think for the vast majority of your kids is going to be okay. But at the kind of primer, pre-primer level, so some of you have like ELD newcomers, you might want this. Speak on each word. That means if you're reading that like cat sat on the mat, you're going to click cat and sat and on. So probably not your students, but you can also have it speak sentence by sentence. So again, that hard, intense chemistry textbook, you could play a sentence, stop, synthesize it, play a sentence, stop, think about it. So if you want to change a language, one of the options is to change the voice of the language. So you can see a heck of a lot of options here, right? So if I choose Norwegian, this is not going to change what's on the page into Norwegian. It's going to read whatever is already on the page with Norwegian phonetics. So if I were to choose Mexican Spanish Paulina, she's going to sound great reading Spanish, but she's going to apply Spanish phonetics to English. So if she was reading the word voice, she would say voice. So this is a voice. This is not the whole shebang bang. This is just the voice. So I can pick one of these voices if I already had content, you world language teachers. If I already had Chinese content or Spanish content or French content, I would be able to choose this voice to have it read nicely in the native language. This will also apply at a deeper level for those of you that are teaching French and Spanish. If I go over here in my options, so that was our speech option. If I go over here into the language options, you'll see there's a shorter list here. These are the languages in which we offer support for the entire toolbar. That's the dictionary, the picture dictionary, speech input, spell checking, all of that is going to happen in these languages fully all the way across the toolbar. So if I change this to Spanish, and then I change my functions here to Spanish, I'm now going to have Spanish word prediction, Spanish speech input, Spanish check it. All of those things are going to happen in Spanish. So for your world language teachers, this may be really super helpful for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and go back to English, but I just wanted you guys to see how much you could do with that. So just a moment here. We're going to close that out. I'll be right back with you in the screen sharing. And so here I am in the document. I want to show you guys, before I go deeper in this document, I wanted to show you some ideas for how you might be able to support world language stuff. So I have here, this is just something I pulled off of Telemundo a while ago, clearly. And if I were to go in here and change this to just a Spanish voice, so I can choose Mexican Spanish Paulina, and I can have all of that read in Spanish. So I could do that and read this in Spanish. I won't do that. I will just give you guys a chance to kind of try that on your own. Let's see here. I'll just give you guys a chance to try that on your own, but I wanted you to see another super, super cool feature. So we were doing that in Spanish. If we did this in French, same thing. We would change our settings to French. We'd be able to read all of this in French. But let's say you want to
Nora?
have your,
I don't see your screen, babe. I don't know why I said it. Sorry.
Sorry, no worries. We're getting a little Zoomy conflict. Sorry, guys. You can see my screen again?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so I'm in some French content, and you can see I have my Read and Write toolbar up here, and there's all kinds of awesome stuff that I can do. I can have it read aloud in French. If I change that setting, I can look up words in the dictionary. But this is something I think is going to be super, super cool for those of you that are teaching world language. So you saw that, I had a Mandarin voice, but I didn't actually have, like all of the tools in Mandarin. If you had a document in Mandarin and you wanted to do this, you could totally do it. I'm going to just grab the content here. and I'll just do a little bit. And then I'm going to click, this is the practice reading aloud button. And it's really probably more designed for intervention students or younger students that need to practice oral reading fluency. But oh boy, do world language students need to practice oral reading fluency in their world language, right? So you can see, it's detecting there's some French stuff going on here. And so you can see I can, press here and I can have it read out loud like I did before, look things up in the dictionary, all that awesome stuff. And then as a student, when I'm ready to share this and practice my recording, I can actually start recording, and I'll try and make a couple of mistakes here. Lucie, étudiante des États-Unis, vient d'arriver à Charles de Gaulle, l'aéroport qui accueille chaque jour à Paris 1 million de visiteurs. Paris, enfant, ça a toujours été le rêve de Lucie. Okay, so I could listen to this and do a better job and correct my mistake, or I could just go ahead and share this back to my teacher. So my teacher would be able to hear my reading. So this is my coworker. I'm not going to send it to my coworker, but if you were in Google Classroom and you were in that teacher's classroom, it's going to say, hey, you want to send it to that teacher? You're going to say yes, or you could choose another teacher. If you don't have Google Classroom, which I don't have Google Classroom, I would be able to actually just like email my teacher. But you guys are going to be able to do all of this through Google Classroom. So that was, I'm going to take you guys back a quick step. That was the practice reading aloud button. So I think that will be a really nice feature for those of you guys that are world language teachers. And you know what we'll do? We'll make sure in our follow-up email with Heather and the team, we're going to send you the videos for world language stuff, how to change the languages, and also how to set up that practice reading aloud, because I think that'll be really powerful for you guys.
Could
All
they
right.
also do it with peers, peer to peer instead of the teacher?
I don't think it's set up to do the full thing, but I think if they emailed it to their peer, they could do peer to peer.
I think they can do practice reading aloud, can't they?
Yeah, practice reading aloud, they could do peer to peer. We have a bigger program for fluency that's got all kinds of data and stuff that you wouldn't want students looking at each other's data. But you should be able to email it to your peer in your classroom, kind of off-road it a little bit. So thanks everybody for that little journey into world languages. And then I know you had a question, Victor, about your students that want to access things offline. So you remember I was able to press here, press the play button, and hear those things read out loud, right? Which is awesome. I was able to go over here and I was able to select the voice that I like and the speed that I like. So that was awesome, right? Hang on just a moment. Be right back there. Having a little Zoomy conflict, but I'm coming back. Okay. All right, so you know how to do the speech. This little guy is going to be your friend, Victor. This is the audio maker. So this works on Google Docs, but it also works on websites. So if you have like a textbook that you want your kids to be able to hear read out loud without having to like actually be in Google Drive or online, you're going to be able to take whatever text, select that text. And this is, I had to have this icon explained to me. The audio maker, that's supposed to be a picture, like a piece of binder paper with headphones on. What we're going to do is we're going to click that, and it's going to take the text that we selected. There's a little progress bar there. It's making an MP3 file of the text that I made. So I'm going to call it Hayward text, right? And I'm going to save it to my downloads. But you could save it to a Google Drive folder that's available offline that your students, if they have Google Drive on their phone, they'd be able to just go to the Google Drive on their phone and get that. You could send that to a file that they can sync with iTunes so they could just listen to it in their playlists. So I'm going to go ahead and call it Hayward text. I'm going to save it. And then you're going to see somewhere here, I should get a pop-up. Let's see. Sorry, I'm having some screen. There we go. Hayward text. And I don't know how much you're going to hear this on here, but this is just a regular MP3 file. So you can do anything that you would normally do with an MP3 file. I know.
So if we were to flip the text or flip the classroom, the kids could listen to it the night before they read it in class.
For sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Brilliant. Absolutely. the way
So-
you do it, for sure.
And then Marcel, excuse me, are you asking specifically for the MP3 that Nora's talking about right now?
So if your students are on the Chromebook, they're also going to be able to have the extra benefit of hearing it and seeing it at the same time. But if you know your kids are much more likely to, dig into it using just the audio only, you can create audio only with the audio maker.
Yeah. Does
I'll
that,
tell you, the kids that did that a lot prior to COVID were the kids on sports teams, right? I don't know that anybody's going to a lot of away games these days, right? But the kids that were having to ride the bus to the away games could be listening to their, social studies book on the, nobody knew they weren't rocking out. They were actually listening to their social studies book. on the
yeah.
phone, right?
You know what, Marcel, and I can't hear your voice, so I'm not sure. I can see you talking. Does this work with PDF text?
Yeah. I think you can hear me now.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes,
And
I finally was able to see what we need to do, but where do I get a text and then give the text to the students? How do you do
Right.
that?
Okay. So we're going to do PDFs next. So we'll show you PDFs next. So
Okay.
you have a PDF of like your French textbook, right? Okay. Yeah. We'll show you how you'd be able to do something like this in a PDF. I'll show you guys in just a minute here. So you guys are great. You're coming up with awesome strategies. I can see you guys running with this and it's perfect. I wanted to show you another strategy. And again, I just wanted to warn you guys, there may be a delay in your Hayward IT getting this set up for you. So if you try to follow along and it doesn't work for you, just know that, by middle of next week, they should have made the adjustments for you and everything should work. We wanted to talk about using these highlighters, and everything that, or most of the things that we're showing you are also going to be available to you in a PDF, in a website. So if you had like an online textbook, you could do it in an online textbook. So we're going to use these digital highlighters here. And I know there's lots of ways to lay color on a page. You could just use the highlighters in Google, but where the action in this is in having your students kinesthetically do something with those highlights. They're not just having a coloring assignment from you, right? So this is a really great example of how to use those highlighters. So this was created by an educator in Wisconsin that was going through our certification program. And she's asking you to kind of sort and analyze these things. And when you're using Read and Write, whether you're on a Google Doc or you're on a website or a PDF, you always want to select whatever it is in the text and then select the action. So if we want to go through here and look for plants and mark those in green, we're scanning along, and a maple's a plant. You saw I scrolled over. I can also double click on the word to select it. So I'm going to select maple in green. And I'm looking for animals in blue. I'm going to do a blue dog and a blue frog. And that's weird, but there's a blue frog. And now she's going to ask me for places in pink. I'm going to do Hawaii and Alaska and Georgia. And then I'm going to do colors in yellow. So I'm going to make yellow. I'm going to pick that and make it yellow. And I'm going to make green yellow. Now, if you want to erase any of your highlights, I could erase yellow by selecting it and then pressing that little broom to sweep it away. And I can add it back by pressing this. So the idea is for you to use these highlighters to help students connect with the ideas and then synthesize that information. So we've made some different kind of groupings here. This could be anything. If this is humanities type stuff, you could be asking the students for the main idea and the detail. This could be, younger students, you might ask for the beginning, middle, and the end. If any of your ELA teachers and you're thinking about literature study, you could assign a color to specific characters and say, what's something interesting that happened with this character in green and that character in blue, right? So this is where you're going to be able to tie in those standards-based strategies. So I selected the different words that we're assigning meaning to. And then I'm going to go here to this. It looks like a recycling symbol, this collect highlights. I'm going to click collect highlights. And I'm going to select these by color, but I could select them by their order or position, but I'm going to collect them by color. And I'm going to say, okay, it's going to go to my Google Doc, and it's going to make me a new Google Doc in my Google Drive. And it's going to have those categories. And this is just a Google Doc. I can write on it. I can share it all the ways that I would share a Google Doc, right? So all the different things that I would do. I will give you guys a heads up. These are going to be called highlights and titled. And if you're wind up using this program for years like me, I probably have 200 things in my drive called highlights and titled. So call them Hayward highlights or something, whatever, you know, give them a name so you can find them again. Right. And then there's a link down here at the bottom that goes back to the document or website that they came from, or PDF or textbook or whatever. So you've got those. That's one way you can use those colored highlighters. The other way, you language teachers are going to be really happy about this. This is the kind of the sexy button in Read and Write. This is the one that gets everybody excited. This is the vocabulary button. We have a dictionary, right? And a picture dictionary. And you're going to be able to use those as long as you make those language adjustments. You're going to be able to use those in French and in Spanish. So you can look things up this way, but any single words in your text or your website or your PDF that you highlight, you're going to be able to click this vocabulary button, and it's going to go to your Google Drive. It's going to make you a new Google Doc. It's going to build a table. The table is going to have the word that you selected, the definition from the dictionary, the picture from the picture dictionary, and then a blank column for you to do whatever you like with. And it's just a Google Doc. Same thing, we're going to call it Hayward vocabulary maybe, so we can find it again, right? And we can go down here and change it if we want to. And so we can share this, we can modify it, but you see the kind of information that we got there. So if you switch into French or Spanish, you're going to be able to make a vocabulary list like this, and the meaning is going to come from the dictionary in French or in Spanish.
Yeah, and I'll just take this a little further, Susan. Yes, absolutely. So this is where you can go deeper with the vocabulary. This can be an added activity. You can take this and do kind of build onto your vocabulary. You can have students, take and only highlight compound words or root words with roots, symbolism, root words or vocabulary words that incite symbolism, idioms, anything like that you can pull from. And then some things that, maybe there's several meanings, or maybe there's a meaning that doesn't quite fit with the word that you were hoping. Last week I looked up complex. Complex was on here, and I was thinking of the word like something that was kind of difficult, and they brought up complex as like a complex of buildings. And so having that discussion with students, like, is this meaning really the meaning or the definition that we were hoping for with this word? And then along with that absolutely goes with those pictures or those symbols. Is this the right picture or symbol that fits with the word that we're hoping for? And then you can build on with that. Maybe you want them to put it in a sentence. Maybe maybe there's other things that you on those columns that you want to put in there. So you can build this vocabulary list any way that you would like. So you can add on to it. You can do different things with this vocabulary list. And then I think we got a question about the highlights and quadratic equations. And so after you're done with the vocabulary list, maybe we can go back to the highlighters and just talk a little bit about those more in depth too, Nora.
Okay, so I'll show you guys one more thing with the vocabulary list. So going back to those of you that want to support English language learners in your class, if you're in the content area and you want to offer some extra support for your students in their home language, I have a school district in Oregon that figured out this really great way to do this. So we already have our vocabulary list, right? And we go to the Google tools and we click translate document. And instead of calling it translated copy, we're going to call it, I don't know, let's call it Punjabi. We'll have a Punjabi copy, And we'll go down here and we'll find, I'm pretty sure there's Punjabi in here. It's picking something off the top of my head. Okay, there's Punjabi. And now we have our vocabulary word list in Punjabi. And then we could do the same thing. We could go in here and we could take this list and we could translate for another student that needs it in Chinese, right? So we could do this and do that and translate that. So you'll see we'll have the same list, but we've actually translated it into the student's home language. So that's another neat little trick. And we can send you a video for that as well. So you guys can kind of recreate that if you want to. So Corey, you were thinking about some other ideas with the digital highlighters?
Yeah, so you can use the highlighters for whatever you choose to use them for, really. So if you're using it in a math document, you can have students highlight anything you want. So if you want to have them highlight all the quadratic equations in a document, then you can highlight those in yellow, or you know, whatever you're thinking, or for review or anything.
If you're a math teacher and you're doing word problems, you
Yep.
might ask the students to use the highlighters to figure out like what's the verb or the action word that's going to help them figure out what operation they're going to use to solve the word problem, right? Is it
Something
gonna
like
be
that.
how
for
many, how
sure.
far, you know?
Yeah,
Other-
exactly. And then also, you know, they definitely now, obviously, I think we all know they have those vocabulary words connected to each lesson in math books. And so you can have those vocabulary words, like I said, kind of dropped into a vocabulary journal. That can be something you can use for the highlighters. And some of the strategies that unfortunately I don't think we're going to be able to get to today. When you're doing like a close reading, you can gather the main ideas in one color, or the main idea in one color and the key details in another, and have students work through that. So there's so many things that you can do with highlighters instead of just highlighting text to highlight text. There's a lot of rigor built into the highlighters and what you can do with them, and then collecting them for a purpose there's a lot you can do with them.
So I know that it does look like we're going to run out of time to get too deep into strategies today, but the good news is we got kind of deep into strategies with your ELD colleagues, and we are going to be sharing that video as well. So keep in mind that that's an option for you to go back and rewatch that, to look at. They're maybe a little bit more ELD centric, but I think you'll be able to use some of those as well. So I know Marcel and probably some of the other folks are really eager to see, what do we do with a PDF? So I have here, going all the way back to slide 11, and I have a couple of places where you could download a PDF. So I want you guys to remember, we went up here in the Orbit doc, right? And you guys went into your options on Orbit doc and you selected Open Classroom PDFs directly. So I'm going to be sharing a PDF with you from outside your domain. And because we're doing that, we're going to have to take a couple of little extra steps for you to get that. But to share a PDF, you'd either share it from a website or you'd share it from somewhere in your Google Drive, and then you would share that through Google Classroom. But since I'm not in your domain, we're going to do things a little bit differently. So Corey, will you do me a favor and drop the link for this document into the chat window? And this is another thing that for you guys is going to open in that template mode, right? So I could, because it's in my Google Drive, I could click where it says open with Read&Write and open it with OrbitDoc, but you won't be able to do that because it's in my Google Drive, right? So you need to have it either in your Google Drive or assigned to you through Google Classroom before you can make marks on it, which makes sense, right? I have my master copy and I don't want you guys to write all over it. So I want you to make a copy. The glory of Google Classroom is, you know, that you can assign it to your students with make a copy for each student. Since I'm not in a Google Classroom with you, I won't be able to do that. So what I want you guys to do is when you get to this preview mode, you're going to download this. and you're going to see, it's going to call it whatever. I'm going to say read and write PDF practice number 1, right? And I'm going to save that. And then what I'm going to do is, let me just open a new tab to my drive. What I'm going to do when you download that, you're going to add that to your drive. So the reason why you're not just opening it is you need to make a copy of it, right? And Google doesn't make it easy for you to make a copy. So you're downloading it, and then you're going to do new file upload, and you're going to pick that same document. And once that thing unloads, I am going to be able to just click on it to open it, and you'll see that it's going to flash read and write. And then, oh, I want to open this with OrbitDoc. So you're going to see it's going to start up here with orbitdoc.com. And down here, you're going to see OrbitDoc. So I know that was kind of roundabout. I just want to remind you guys, if you either find a website with a PDF that you want to share, or you have a PDF master of your own thing, you're going to be able to share that directly with students through Google Classroom. So we kind of went way around the mulberry bush to give you a PDF because we're not in a Google Classroom with you and we're not in your domain. But you know, if you have your options set up here and you're in Google Classroom, when you're in this document, there's going to be an assign button right here. So you're going to be able to either take something from online and bring it in, or from your drive and bring it in and assign it to your students this way. So I'll give you guys a little while to get there, and you'll see the toolbar looks a little bit different inside a PDF, right? It's a kind of light gray and it looks a little bit different. But the good news is you guys already know how to use a bunch of the tools on this toolbar. You know how to make a talk, you know how to take highlights, you know how to collect highlights. You already know all these things, right? So anybody got questions about getting access to that PDF? We'll send you a video. It's also in the, it's also right there in the slides. There's a video showing you exactly how to share these things through Google Classroom. And I'm sorry, we can't do it directly with you because we're not in your domain. But it's much easier than what we just did here. So here we are in a Google Doc, or in a PDF. I can take the text and I can press the button and I can read it out loud. And I can pick a word and look it up in the dictionary, the picture dictionary. For those of you that are world language teachers, I can go over here to my settings and I can change it to a different language, right? So I've got all those options that you saw before, but I have additional options because this is a PDF. So if I want to do highlights, I can do all of those things. There's different ways that I can annotate this PDF and different ways for my students to annotate it. And so we can share back and forth in a real document. So I like the pushpin annotation here as a way to offer some extra scaffolding for students who might need it. So I might say something like, in this case, I'm going to have students using this to compare and contrast. So I'm going to say, compare things that are good for birds in green and contrast things that are bad for birds in pink, right? And then when I say, okay, it's just going to lay that one little thing right there. So it's not going to take over the whole text, but your students are going to know if they need input from you, they can just go ahead and press on that little red icon and get a little bit more. So we can make as many of those as we want to. The other cool thing is that your students are going to be able to hear that read out loud. So that's one of the ways that you can make an annotation. You can also annotate using a like a freehand drawing or a pen tool. And I know, you can certainly like write on here, but it's not that meaningful to write on a document like this. I can't edit it. I can't hear it read out loud. It's either there or it's gone. That's pretty much all I can do, right? So I'm not a big fan of using the pen tool that way. The way I would use the pen tool is maybe ask students something like, can you use a light blue line to show me where you might find the answer to a question, something like that. That's a much more effective use of that colored highlighter or the colored pen, I think. You also have the ability to use shapes. So maybe you might want to make sure your students knew what a verb was. So you could ask them to identify a verb and put it in a yellow box. They could totally do that. We'll choose use, okay. And we'll do use. So we know that use is a verb, right? So that, but this is the jazzy jazz. This is the one that you guys want. This is the typewriter annotation. So I can press anywhere in the text and I can use my word prediction or I can use my speech input. There needs to be an answer here. And I can hear that read back. Now notice when I said there needs to be an answer here, it knew which here I meant. It didn't come out HEAR, right? So this is super helpful for your students who struggle with this kind of thing. And I can drag this answer to wherever I want it to go. And just reminding you world language teachers, if you've got everything set to Spanish or everything set to French, your kids can write in French right on the document or in Spanish right on the document.
2 things, Nora, can I interject?
Sure.
First, orbit.texthelp.com, is that what they should see above the PDF? And yep, okay. Some of the tools are grayed out. I know you've talked about this before, but can you just address that?
Sure. So the highlighters appear a little bit differently here. So you'll actually press on the highlighters to have the highlighters come down. So you won't see all the different colored highlighters like you did in a Google Doc. And the toolbar appears differently. It's going to be like a light gray, not like the bright colors in the Google Doc. Does that kind of address the question?
No, because some are grayed out.
Oh, that's because this document is not yet in your Google Drive. It's not yours. So you can do things like scribble on top of it. That's only on your screen. It's not on my doc, right? So if it's fully shared with you and it's your doc and you own it or you own the rights to work on it, then you're going to be able to do things like look up words in the dictionary or something. But otherwise, you're going to have a very limited tool set. Basically going to be able to read it out loud and scribble on it, and that's about it. Does that make sense? So remember, I didn't share with you guys through Google Classroom, but if you share this with your students through Google Classroom, you're going to want to make sure you make a copy for each student, and then everybody's going to have the full toolbar and full rights to it.
Okay, that should address Marlene. And then changing the language in Orbit Doc.
Same, very similar to how you do it in Read&Write. So you go to settings and you're going to go to the language, right? So here's where we choose French, Spanish, and then speech. Here's where you choose the voices. And just remember, you have a lot more options for voices because those are just purely phonetic. But if you're doing Spanish, you want a Spanish voice that matches, right? So make sure you choose a Spanish or French voice or whatever you want, and then choose your language up there. And then you can also, for those of you that are doing world language, maybe you want to translate from French to English, right? Rather than English to something else, right? So you can choose, oh, I don't want to translate. I don't have anything in Afrikaans. I want it to be English. There we go. Okay. Good question. All right. Now I'm sorry.
Nope, we're good to go.
All right, I'm going to show you
Oh,
one
I'm
more
sorry,
super cool way to,
I didn't get how you got to the text help part. I didn't see how you got to that window to
change the settings.
Yeah, just
Sure.
go to settings over there.
Got meatballs, 3 little dots in a row over here, and then settings. And then I have sort of general settings where I can change the language, the speech setting where I can change the voice and how fast it is, the translation settings. Did that help?
I can't get that. I downloaded that document, but it's not giving
Did you
me
upload
access
it
to
into
it
your
still.
Google Drive? So after you downloaded it, you need to go to your Google Drive and add it to your Google Drive. So I downloaded it to my downloads. I don't know where you put it. You could put it on your desktop or
So
wherever
I
you
put it
put
in
it.
my downloads, but then I'm trying to put it in the Google Drive. It's not working. I don't know.
Okay, so if you're at the top level of your Google Drive, you should have a new button. And you do new file upload. And then you select it wherever you saved it. And again, you guys won't have to do this process yourselves. This is just what I have to do to share this with you because I don't work in Hayward. You're going to be able to share those documents, back and forth through Google Drive or through Google Classroom. Did that help?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
awesome. And then I
don't
want
know,
to
I'm
show you
trying
guys
to-
one more way that you can interact, which I think is going to be really nice for you world language teachers, which is, I don't know if anybody uses comments in Google Docs, but there's a very similar feature here inside Orbit Doc. So I can click anywhere in the text and open up a comment field over here on the right. And let me just scroll over so you can see my options. So I can use word prediction. I can use speech input. I can play back what I read. I can add an image. So you math teachers, if you want to have your kids like take a picture of, some math problem and attach it over here on the side, you can do that. You can attach it, or you can actually have the picture in line. So I could use my speech input. And so remember, if my language was French or Spanish, and I went to do the speech input, I could actually do the speech input over here, like in French. So my teacher could see that I was able to do that. Another feature that'll be coming back to Orbit Doc soon that I think will be huge for world language. One of these options is going to be for you to leave a voice note. So if you don't want to have your students do the practice in reading aloud from a Google Doc, but you want them to show you that they understand the part of the textbook, you could actually ask them to vocally answer the question, and you'll get a recording over here. So this is a feature that'll be coming back soon to Orbit Docs. So I'm going to say,
Mine says pop-up blocked.
you'll want to unblock that. You should have like a little red up there and just unblock it. Right. And then you'll be able to hear this like read
What
back
does
out
the
loud, right?
answer look like?
And I can comment, and then maybe your students asking you a question, and you could actually answer them, right? And you could say something, look in paragraph 3, right? Something like that. So does that help a little bit?
Yeah, fantastic.
All right, I know that our time together is kind
my
of coming to an
goodness.
end. Corey, do you want to kind of wrap things up?
Yes. So, oh my gosh, everybody, that was a fast hour and a half. I hope you learned a lot. You will have, let me just share my screen one more time. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so thank you so much for coming. I just want you guys to know that there are 2 strategies that you can work through and look at. Again, we would have gone through this if we had a little bit more time, but I think what we did was really a good start for then kind of working through these processes with you. The objectives are here. The strategies are here, and it explains everything that they are. The expert groups, jigsaws, it talks about what toolbar icons can be utilized. It explains the description, what it is. It gives you focus questions. This is a PDF. So you work through a PDF portion with Nora. So you have a PDF here that you can practice on if you would like. Then it goes through what the expert groups are. This is a process grid you can utilize. And then it works through share groups. It kind of works through the whole strategy with you. I know it's a lot of information, but you can just practice using your tools with this strategy. And then the second strategy is a close reading of complex text. Same thing, it kind of goes through the same process, gives you what tools you can utilize on a web page. So you can definitely practice on a web page as well, which is really fun to do. And it walks you through, gives you a guiding question, and then walks you through close reading, the first read, the second read, and the third read, and what you can do with those highlighters, and kind of gives you a little bit more understanding, dives deeper into those highlighters. So this is a really fun activity as well, and it works through two different areas of the toolbar, one through the PDF and one through the web page. And then also you have a Google Doc that you can work through it as well. So you kind of get all three of our formats or platforms with the toolbar, and you can be able to see a little bits of difference between those toolbars. Not a huge amount of difference, but there are a little bit of difference. So I hope that you guys have a chance to practice those. And then we're just going to come into our kind of ending slides and really kind of learning about 4 keys to successful implementation that we love to kind of go over at the end of this. And the first is organized preparedness, making sure that your classroom structure is in a space that really works for the students, making sure your devices and your supports for the students are in place with your digital tools, your mastery of icons, not only that you're mastering them, that you're giving enough support for those students to be able to master them as well. So any videos you need, any added supports, we have a lot of resources. We have a great tech department. Just please, whatever you need, let us know, let your district know, and we're here for you. Making sure that your commitment to long-term success is helping your students get these tools right away, beginning at the, starting at the beginning of the school year and utilizing them throughout all subject areas. I'm hoping that, we do kind of implement these throughout the subject areas, because they do benefit in math and science and social studies, and obviously language arts. And then modeling. Of course, that's super important. And the last one is just partnerships, making sure that you have a team of successful partnerships, not only with people that you interact with every day, teacher partners, but also with us. We're here for you. We really think that teamwork helps make the dream work. And so let's problem solve together. Whatever you need, let us know, let your administrators know. And with that, our last slide here is a slide that just lets you know that if you do need assistance, please contact tech support. They are a small team and they are on the East Coast. And so if you get a recorded message, please leave a voicemail, because they get back to you very quickly. Don't assume that leaving a voicemail, you're not going to get a response, because they are very, very responsive. And with that, then I'll just let Nora say the last word, but thank you all so very much. You were all very interactive and I appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys were great. We kind of went down some different strategies maybe than, the ones on the slides, but it sounded like these were all strategies that were going to be really helpful for you. And you can see there's a support site, there's our website, we have a super active YouTube channel. So if you want to know how to change the languages or make those audio recordings, there's a little 2-minute video to show you that. We're going to follow up with Heather and send her some videos and some links to some of the things that we discussed, so you guys can find them easily again. And so don't be shy about that. And then if you are trying to use the tools and you experience any issues, or I'm not sure how to, make this happen, definitely reach out to tech support. Corey and I are often, with people all day, so it'd be much slower for us to respond. And tech support they're waiting for you. They want to hear from you. Yes. And then I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But Corey, if you don't mind turning off the recording, Any of you that
Yes,
want to stay
absolutely.
on with us, we're more than happy to answer a couple questions like offline or kind of off recording if you want to. So thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Those of you who are asking, you don't need to do a survey. We collected your names when you came in, so when you registered, so you're already all set for attendance, no problem. I'm glad we had all these world language teachers. You guys were awesome.
It was good.
Good.
It's a great tool.
Thank
It's
you.
the best. It's the best I've seen. We just
Good.
gonna
We
need
have-
more practice.
We have maybe 3-4 million French users in Canada, so our French tools get a workout.
Yeah, it's good. It's the best I've seen.
Good.
Just need more practice because the technology is pretty intense.
We've
Was
got
Emma
lots and lots of resources for you. So when you're ready to look, there's definitely places where you can get, like, not Corey and I slamming this at you 90 miles an hour and in 90 minutes, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna redo everything slowly so I can get there. But I'm
Perfect.
planning to use this. Yes, it's very good.
Ah, that's great. That's
Awesome.
great.
You know
There's a
what,
lot of
Laura? I
features like
think you,
Cami.
yes.
Yes. Yep. And you'll
Um,
see we're going to be doing some big updates in the fall semester that are going to probably add a little bit more than what you're used to seeing with Cami. So it's going to be exciting.
Maybe we can have another workshop, two
Yeah.
workshops, like
Yeah.
half of what you did in one and then the other half.
Yeah, you know what, Nora, I don't have the recording spot. I think you're gonna have to because you came on first.